but a major disturbance to Earth. It has been in its past. It will be in its future. We're showing clear indications of its approach when you know what to look for scientifically. Global warming does not explain these phenomena that scientists are studying. Nowhere near. Don't even come close. But these other objects are distractions. They have no validity in a threat or disturbance to Earth. The 3,600 years does not work out. That for an object to have a 36-year orbit, you'd have to have an object that's 3 to 4 times the size of Jupiter. Well, let me give it. Now, some people say the Bible doesn't have data. Yes, it does have data, whether or not you believe it. But I can tell you all of the past historical events, it follows the exact model in sequence and everything. Now, will the book of Revelation give us a futuristic, what it says for the future? Can it be accounted on? I think so, since it has such a past, since the past records are so exact, I can't find an error in it. It gives me great concern for what it's telling us for the future. It says that our destruction by fiery hail would be no more than an hour. It'll be within an hour, it says. So that cannot be over an hour. Well, Earth travels 8.4 Earth diameters, I believe it is, per hour. Earth diameter is roughly 7,800 or so miles across. Well, at the angle that it comes in around March and April, means that this object cannot be larger than 6.6 diameters of Earth. All right? Also, the 3 hours of darkness for Yeshua gives us a range. Okay? And I roughly use an object roughly 6.5 to 7 times the diameter of Earth is what I used. I don't like calling this object 6.66, so that's why I call it Planet 7. But it's no larger than that. It can be anywhere from 5 to 7. Like, in other words, like if it's a steel ball, it could even be smaller than 5 meter diameters. But that's not in the realistic realm of density. It could be, but it's the least likely. So we're looking for something that's similar to Earth, let's say, in mass or heavier. We know that it plowed into Ceres and survived. Ceres is shattered, but yet this planet continued on. So we know it's dense.
It's denser, right?
Yes.
It's much denser than Earth.
It's a high probability. The denser it will be for 360-year orbit, the smaller the diameter will be. That's why I'm giving a diameter anywhere from 5 to 7, somewhere in there. If it's a gas giant, of some type, then it could be 7, because visually you would count the gas blanket, but it doesn't count on the orbital. It doesn't really add much to the orbital mass. So orbital mechanics tells us a lot on what it is not. It is not a 3,600-year orbit because it would cross Earth's orbit 4 times if it was on the planetary plane, not twice. The Bible clearly indicates multiple times it passes on Earth's planetary plane twice. The Book of Revelation gives us 2 separate meteor showers, one in seal 6, one in seal 7, and they're 5 months apart. Well, remember Noah's flood? The Book of Revelation is referring, it'll be very similar to Noah's flood, and what's the other one? The time of Lot.
Right.
Well, they found the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah recently, and they were destroyed by either a comet or a meteor that is exploded over those 2 towns. They found trinidite at these 2 sites. Well, the only other time we can find trinidite is at a nuclear test site where the heat is so hot it turns the sand to glass. Well, they found this trinidite also at Sodom and Gomorrah. This is where an object explodes over the sky, just like, remember the one that's exploded over Russia. They were very lucky that it was that 4 or 5 miles or whatever miles it was high. If it would have exploded closer to the Earth, you'd have people vaporized there. Just like Lot's wife. Lot's wife was vaporized on the second event, leaving her shadow cast onto the stone. That happened in Japan during World War II when they dropped the nuclear device.
Right.
It vaporized people, leaving their shadow. You can still see those shadows today. Keep in mind, it's man's description that said she was turned to stone, not God saying, I'm going to turn her to stone. It's man's description because they don't have a word for vaporization. They didn't even know what happened to her. They could just see the outline of her on the stone or on the salt.
A similar thing could have happened also, couldn't it, Gill, during the Exodus, when we read about the scripture about the killing of the firstborn in Egypt. There are some historical facts back there. If I have read it in different times, that the account that they have shared is that some of them people that were killed, the firstborn, were killed in sort of a meteor shower that came down that night of the darkness. There is nothing really solid that we can use to prove that, but there have been some kind of reports out there. If people search it, it's out there somewhere. And it is very possible, if it is the same event that took place during the Exodus, if that event is the same event as Planet 7X during previous time it crossed the Earth's orbit, it is very possible. Do you think that could have been the same thing, the same object during the Exodus, or do you think that was something different?
Without a doubt it is. There are certain hallmarks that the Bible keys in on. If you see a double eclipse, or hear written in the text a double eclipse, keep in mind, you can only have one eclipse at a time in the natural. But the Bible clearly mentions double eclipses multiple times. The sun and moon are going dark at the same time. It will say the sun is dark and the moon is blood red. Blood red means, in their terms, a eclipse. You cannot have a double eclipse because one creates the other one. It takes the moon to create a solar eclipse, not both at the same time. It takes a third object to cause a double eclipse. This is mentioned multiple times in the Bible. Along with that, you see a 7-year drought on average. The only time it was longer, it was Ruth. Then you read about fiery hail. Fiery hail is their way of describing a meteor shower. They didn't have the word meteor yet. Okay? Hail means any object falling from the sky. Okay? They said fiery hail, that is meteor shower. It'll talk about strange effects with the rivers. We're going to see that again. You're going to start to see rivers drying up or landslides into the river where the rivers would turn red. You'll see plagues. During severe droughts, certain type of insects like locusts are more abundant because of the temperatures are ideal for them. And it's like remember, a plague back then. Today, we think of a plague only as a disease. A plague in the Bible means anything that harms normal society. If it's attacking the cattle, or if it's a locust eating crops, if it's a drought, if that plague means something negative affecting the whole group. So keep that in mind. Words have different meanings whenever you come into modern time versus ancient time. And it is clear when we use the same model that we found in the Asian records of 1054, the supernova 1054. This is the white paper report of it. It's the reevaluation of the Eastern and Western records of the supernova 1054. And what this white paper tells us is that the supernova was seen a couple months earlier, it was documented, but this part of the study clearly indicates this is not a supernova. This large object that they were observing moved through multiple constellations. Well, supernova is stationary. And they observed this object for 26 months. Naked eye observation. They didn't have a telescope yet. 13 months coming in, 13 months leaving. Well, if any amateur astronomer out there and professional knows for a fact, for you to see an object for that long with your naked eye, that has to be a large planet or a large comet, something very large. Because a normal comet, you might see it for a month or two at the max, not 26 months. It has to take a large object to be able to reflect that much light for that period of time. And when we plot the orbit, because they're giving us enough information, and I came out with about 152 and 1/8 day entry and exit. The exit is in the month of Passover. Okay, that's around the end of March, beginning of April, where it exits at. And I take that same model and I bring it into the biblical records and overlay the sequence of events that they're describing. The slowing down of Earth, the 3 hours of darkness for Yeshua. Remember, this object can pass behind Earth or in front of Earth. It gives us two sets of effects. For like Hezekiah, it passed behind us. It only caused the tilt. There was no meteor shower. Earth tilted 26 to 28 degrees. Remember Joseph of Egypt, when they had that severe drought. This object passes mid of the 7 years. That's 3.5 years in. Guess what? The skies bowed to him. We have it documented in the Niebuhr of Germany, where the literal skies are bowing to him because Earth is tilting 26 to 28 degrees. Same amount of degrees that happened to Hezekiah's time.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. I know Larry has a question regarding the trajectory of Planet X. Larry, do you have a question for Gill?
Well, I was going to ask him by chance, Stan Dale and others claim to have information that this object speeds up and slows down. In other words, it's not a constant momentum, but apparently something is adjusting the momentum as it travels. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I just wanted to mention that and see if he was aware of that or if he thought that was true. And then I had another follow-up question that just came to mind after that.
Anybody that knows physics that would know they just violated one of the laws of physics right there. Planets do not speed up per se. Keep in mind, as it's going closer to Earth, it has a constant rate of speed of increasing. As it goes away, then it slows down. But it's not gonna. That is calculable. You can calculate how much it's going to increase in its speed going towards Earth. It's not going to just sit there in the middle of space right there, decide, okay, I'm not going to follow the laws of physics. I'm going to slow down, and I'm going to fool you. I'm going to move right, left, all of this jazz. The laws of conservation of energy. Look, for even a planet, there's certain people that wrote books that Mars jumped orbit, interfered with Earth in the past, and then jumped back into its orbit. Some say it was Mars. Some say it's Venus that jumped. Well, show me evidence on how a planet gets the additional energy it needs to break its magnetic hold on where it is in its trough, come interfere with us, then have enough energy to go back to its place. Where's the generators connected to this planet that gives it the extra energy? These people who are making these statements they're violating laws of physics. So I say no, that is not right. And if you can give me a visual, but they can't give me a visual. There's all these so-called sightings that they're showing are either lens flares, Photoshop fakes, atmospheric phenomena. When it's going to be real, there's 2 to 3 million amateur astronomers out there that the government cannot control these people. They have the professionals control because of licensing. Amateurs, if there was if someone would give coordinates and say, here it is, or just say it's in Sagittarius or where, you would have hundreds of photos, close-up photos, of a planet that you would recognize as not one of our known planets. It will either look like a comet, or it's going to look like, you probably see the surface of it. If it's closer than Jupiter, then it will start to have a glow, like most comets will. It will start to make its own light. But if it's beyond that, you can actually see, the crater shapes and, whatever atmosphere, if it had one, you would see characteristics that would tell you you're looking at a totally different planet. And we have not sighted it yet. There is no sighting in the public realm at this time. May have something in the government realm, but there's nothing in the public realm right now. It does not mean that this object is not real, because there's too much data pointing to a real object. We have all the effects of it. We know where it's coming from. We have historical documents that correlate with a real model. And I'm quoting astrophysicist Tyson, exactly what his quote is on what science is.